Hello, everyone. This is WWE legend Tatanka, and you're listening to another wrestling podcast.
It's time for another wrestling podcast.
The measuring stick just changed around here, buddy. You're looking at
the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be.
They got the answers. I change the question.
The cream of the crop. Nobody does it better.
these are the best in the world, brother. These are the best at what they do.
When we talk about the legends of the sport, there's only two in my book.
Another wrestling podcast.
Another wrestling podcast. Now can you dig that, sucker?
All right. Welcome to another wrestling podcast. I'm Steve Credo.
I'm Jonathan Benjamin.
On the phone. What is so important, Jonathan, right now that you have to be on the phone?
Well, I'm trying to find out. I'm looking at these dirty dirt sheets is what I'm doing right now. I'm trying to find out if Eric Rowan is actually going to be the third man. Because I heard last night or a while back that Savio Vega may be in the mix for Night of Champions. This is going to air after Night of Champions.
Screw that. I'm trademarking dirty dirt sheets.
Well, that's fine. So yeah, I mean, a lot of people get on these things. Every now and then I try to get on them just to catch up, to hear what they're saying about me, because 9 times out of 10, there's, something obviously that's going to be said about us. But, are you a dirty dirt sheet reader?
Of course I am. I'm a mark. I'm a fan. I love the business. I got to see what's going on. You got to read the sheets. You know what I'm saying? You got to see what's happening. It's news. It's our own news. It's our CNN. It's our Fox News. It's our news. We got to see what's happening in the world of the wrestling universe.
I wonder if a all wrestling news network, like we have the WWE network, but if there was somebody that was kind of like a cross between TMZ and the actual news, where they would be, breaking news stories throughout the day. The problem is there's just not that much.
Would it be another wrestling news network?
I think,
trademark.
Anytime someone says it, we get a quarter. So, I think that, I love looking at the dirt sheets and trying to see. It's funny, though, because I'm a fan. I wonder what it's like if your name is in the dirt sheets. They have to look at it.
I would. I don't know, guys. We have to have the interview where we just ask wrestlers, do you read the dirt sheets? What do you look at? What do you read as a wrestler? Because,
And what happens, though, if it's if they're saying something that you don't know as a wrestler, but they're like, yeah, study, or we've heard that Kofi Kingston's about to get fired, and then he gets on there, and then he's like, what? What?
Yeah,
and then he's got to go around the whole week or whatever thinking he's about to get fired.
Or you could play the game like we did, to where 2 episodes ago we talked with Sabu because we saw him in the dirt sheets, and we had to find out his side of the story, and he joined us on another wrestling podcast, and he told his side, and. We played the news game with there. We got his side of the story. We heard the other person's side of the story from the sheets.
If you are a pro wrestler right now and you're listening to this show, and you read those dirty dirt sheets, let us know. Tweet us at @AWrestlingPod. Let us know what your thoughts are on dirt sheets. But Steve, we have an amazing show today. As always, probably best show ever.
I would agree, Jonathan, because joining us in a little bit is WWE legend Tatanka. I wanted to get your opinion on this because we talk a lot about wrestling. We talk a lot of wrestling topics, and that's what's great about this show. Politically correct. Is the world getting too PC? Is the wrestling world too PC? I don't know. What are your thoughts about PC these days?
Potato chip?
Politically correct potato chips.
So as far as political correctness goes, all you need to do is go back on the WWE Network, which you can purchase for $9.99.
We're not even getting paid for that.
No, that's a free one, Vince. If you get on the WWE Network and go back to the 80s, if you go back to the 90s, you're going to see a lot of things that you're going to say, I can't believe it's not butter. That it's not butter. I can't believe that they got away with that. I've watched videos of Terry Funk slapping a horse in the face during a vignette. I've seen anything and everything in this crazy world of professional wrestling. There's been a little bit of everything, and I think that it kind of mirrors the times.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, in this day and age, a lot of people are very politically correct. You can't call people names. You can't wear certain things.
You can't offend somebody, or well, I'm not saying you should offend people, but you can't do anything without offending people or whatnot. Somebody's getting mad at something every day. That's where we live in now.
And it used to be where you could have your opinion. If you didn't like something, you just flip the channel. There's been times when I was watching wrestling and I was like, if they go much further with this, I'll probably change. I never did. I never changed the channel. There's never been a time that I thought that it was too far. But wrestling is entertainment as well.
Yep.
WWE, World Wrestling Entertainment. You have a lot of that. And do they push the envelope? Absolutely. They damn near push it off the table. But I don't think that wrestling's too politically incorrect. I think the world has gotten a little bit soft.
Yeah. We're getting too soft out there.
We're getting SAWFT.
And you can't teach that, Jonathan.
Teach that, my friend.
I think that's the problem, though. It's a real big problem, because even today's wrestling, everything's too scripted, because you can't just go off the cuff. Because what if you say something to offend somebody? Then your sponsor's going to be taken away because they don't want to be associated with that. And it's crazy. It's bizarre. It's just, you can't just let wrestling be wrestling anymore.
And I think that's what the draw is for a lot of these independent promotions out there. They're flying without a wire. They don't have those sponsors. You've got WWE this month, or they're featuring Connor's Cure, the pediatric cancer. They're really, really trying to go for certain demographics. TV PG versus TV MA or TV 14 or whatever it was back in the Attitude Era. It used to be that 18 to 35 male demographic. I have to assume that is no longer their target demographic.
No, definitely. The kids are buying the merch. The parents are buying the merch for the kids, so it's definitely...
I'm buying the merch for myself still.
Yeah. I think if you take your whole 18 to 35 and just shift it down the other way to the left, from maybe, 7 to, 25 or something like, 7 to 30, whatever. It's definitely down there, because definitely with the toys, especially just things that happen on TV these days, you can just tell it's definitely not for the older fan. Whereas what they're doing smart kind of is using the network to bring in the older fans, because there's a lot of stuff on there that's happening now to where a lot of kids don't care about it. They won't get it because the kids aren't paying for the network. We're paying for the network, the older generation. So I kind of see how they're splitting it a little bit, but at the same time, it's like just be yourself, man. Just be wrestling again. Stop being so PC and just do what you used to do.
And our interactive question of the week is going to be, do you, the wrestling fan listening right now, do you think that the world of professional wrestling is politically incorrect? Tweet us at @WrestlingPod to let us know. While you're there, follow us, and so we can follow you back, and we can have a holy matrimony marriage of Twitter.
All right, as I see him walking in, we are going to be joined right now by WWE legend Tatanka.
All right, joining us today is a Native American professional wrestler from the Lumbee tribe. You remember him from his time spent in the WWE. Please welcome Tatanka. Tatanka, man, thanks for joining us.
Hey, thank you, Steve. It's an honor to be on another wrestling podcast. I know there's many out there, But guys, if you're looking for the right one, remember, Another Wrestling Podcast. Again, Steve, thank you very much. It's an honor to be here, and it's always an honor to be able to speak to the fans worldwide, too.
All right, great. Now, on October 16th and 17th, you'll be making appearances for ESS Promotions, the number one talent agency in the world specializing in professional wrestling. All information can be found on ESSpromotions.com, and we'll talk about where and when a little bit later, where you can meet and greet Tatanka coming up. But Tatanka, man, you probably went through a grueling travel schedule in your WWE time, but is it nice to be able to tone it down a little bit and get to visit your fans and at these local shows and conventions and just be able to speak to the fans one-on-one more?
Well, Steve, you definitely hit it on the button. The difference between being on a current, what we call a full booking contract at WWE or World Wrestling Federation, as many know from before also, I've really been honored and blessed to be able to work for WWF and also up to 2010 be able to work with the new WWE. So there's definitely a lot of changes in the schedule. World Wrestling Federation, I was literally my first almost 7 years on the road 300 days a year. The current WWE schedule, even though there's certain stars like John Cena that is still very busy and out there probably 300 plus, the schedule is lighter, meaning it's 4 days on, 3 days off, 4 days on, 3 days off, and the only time it changes is when you have an international tour. So the scheduling is a lot easier today. A lot of the veterans in our business, we laugh at some of these young kids. They go, "Oh, it's so tough being on the road. Oh, it's so tough." Guys like Hulk Hogan was on the road 90 days straight before finally getting home, doing those crazy years of World Wrestling Federation in the 80s and, of course, in the 90s, and it was just going crazy. There was 3 tours a night, so the schedule was so much more demanding them. I've actually been on the road 60 days straight myself, but today, being able to work with people like Eric Sims and his promotion, booking talent worldwide for wrestling type of events, it's great because even though I'm very busy every weekend, I'm not on a full booking contract with WWF or WWE, so it allows me to have the opportunity to do things like this, to also be able to speak to fans at the shows, because when you're at WWE, you don't get to do these kind of things.
No, yeah, definitely. Now, growing up, did you have any favorite Native American wrestlers that maybe inspired you? Because I know one of my favorites growing up was Chief Jay Strongbow. Or maybe, any lessons you learned from them before, you broke into wrestling?
Probably the first greatest impact in my career was when I was in the North Carolinas, and I decided to pursue a career of professional wrestling. I was working in Bally's Corporation. I was a divisional manager. I was very successful in what I was doing. I had a club that was responsible for $400,000 to $500,000 a month, and I was selling over $1 million a year for the company. So when I decided to pursue professional wrestling, the area that I broke into was in the Carolinas, and I was so honored because in that area was Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, and the other guy, which again your question is, a native influence, Wahoo McDaniels. And Wahoo was just real native blood, just a real tough warrior, fights you in a heartbeat, old school all the way. So he definitely took me underneath his wings, along with, when I went to World Wrestling Federation, of course, the impact that Chief Jay Strongbow had, because not only was he an agent, but he was very successful at World Wrestling Federation portraying the Native American race. Everyone knows that he was Italian, but he loved the Native American heritage, and he loved portraying it on TV. He was a great impact and a great mentor, too.
Sure. Now, for everybody listening too, Native American culture is a little bit different from ours. But what would you say your favorite part of Native American culture is?
Well, everyone. It's kind of a question, with this crazy world we live in today, and you see all the crazy things happening, and people running for president, and the things they say and the things they do. What's so cool about the Native heritage? The more I research, the more I understand. I mean, we began here in the United States of America as the first First Nations and First Americans. And with Native Americans, we're real big on family. We're real big on standing together. We're real big on, even though that no one's perfect, doing good to others. So what I love is about the peace that you have when you're in a native environment, because their ways of life is not to cause debate, not to fight with anyone, but just like the Pilgrims when they came, they realized the Pilgrims were going to die. They did not know to hunt. They did not know how to hunt. They did not know how to crop. And out of generosity, out of the way that we live, meaning helping others and also helping them to do certain things. You know, our culture is just a great culture because it's family, it's good, it's teaching you about how to become a great warrior, how to become a better native, and we also respected the Creator. We respected the creation. You know, we believe that there was one God, and we respected Him, and we also believe that, you know, we're stewards of everything. That's the biggest thing that we had about land, because we believe that no one owned the land. It was the Creator's that was given to us to steward, to take care of. So, you know, there's a lot of different things about our culture. Of course, things advance, but, you know, the deep native cultures, when you get on maybe some of the places where you're away from the big cities, you'll see that they're still practicing these things. What's really cool to end with is when I was at WWE, my latest run for SmackDown, we filmed an Anipi ceremony, which is a sweat lodge ceremony that was part of making me family to the Lakota Sioux. It's a true sacred ritual that's been performed since the beginning of time. Two sacred rituals I perform with them. One of them being the sweat lodge ceremony. And you go inside and you're with elders or you're with the chief. And it's really cool when you're in this darkness, you're in this heat, you're being tested as a person spiritually. It's cool to hear the leader or the chief talk about pretty much just good things about being a good person. So that's the reason when you get around, you know, native reservations, it's just very, very peaceful. They love creation, they love nature, so it's just a very, very cool atmosphere overall.
All right, yeah, definitely. Now, you know, professional wrestling has had its share of characters over the years. Do you think that the WWE is currently capitalizing on, you know, the popularity again with wrestlers like, you know, the Wyatts, the Vaudevillains, Adam Rose, stuff like that? Do you think, you know, just bringing these share of characters back?
Well, hey, we all know this. The greatest eras of our business, not because I was part of it, was the 80s and 90s. Simple fact is, wherever I travel all over the world, when people walk up to my table, and I do mean I'm traveling all the time, and I'm seeing the current market all the time. When they walk up to your table, when they walk up to see you, they're talking about, oh my God, WrestleMania 3, Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant. Oh my God, Ultimate Warrior. Are you and Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 9? It's because those eras had everybody was characters. Mm-hmm. It's like the greatest movies today, you know, Marvel, DC Comics. I mean, all of these animated characters are now some of your biggest movies. Hulk, Spider-Man. People love characters. They love getting away and being able to get into that realm where they get away from reality and they believe in a character. We have larger-than-life characters, and we're seeing it today with WWE. Yes, they are adding characters, but in our day, everyone was a character. I believe the more we get back to that era, the bigger the business will get, because people, at the end of the day, they love to support a character. There's too many guys that come through the curtains and they look the same. Boots, knee pads, tights, and that's it. Even pretty much the same body types. Mm-hmm. Back in our day, my gosh, everyone was so uniquely different from each other, which really added to, again, the character and added to the success of our business.
Definitely. Now, you spend a lot of time in the wrestling business today, you know, as well. Are you hopeful with the future of wrestling?
Well, without a shadow of a doubt. The reason why is because what's changed in our business, which is fantastic for our business, some people didn't want to see that change, or they just don't want to change with it, is social media. I'm big on social media. I have huge social media platforms, and what's great about that is WWE has caused a platform for the WWE Universe, the fans themselves, to be able to speak, and WWE Universe now has a voice. and I don't think WWE thought it would go that route. I thought that they, thought it would mainly be for advertising. But again, WWE is a major company. The social media accounts are huge with millions and millions of followers. And, when they start speaking, WWE does listen because you have millions of people there. So I think they're hearing what the fans are saying at next. That's the reason Triple H has put so much attention to the NXT product, because again, you got characters there, and the fans in these 5,000-seat arenas are going crazy and chanting, and then you got Monday Night Raw and SmackDown, and they see what's happening in NXT. That's the reason Triple H is putting so much attention to it. It's great because you're letting the guys wrestle, and you got guys like Balor, who's already on WWE games, because he has a character.
Definitely. Now, being a veteran of the business, some guys, some guys later on, they'll want to take jobs as being a coach or a mentor or whatnot. Would you ever consider, taking a job with WWE or anybody, working in like a talent development capacity, or is that something maybe that's not for you?
Well, no, it's definitely not something for me. I mean, when I was there working, I had great guys like great talent that was there now, great superstars that were agents then that were telling me that everyone knows their names, but I don't need to mention them. They were saying, man, we'd love to have you here. As far as an agent, you'd be great to be in an agent position, and they were telling me about some of the things that were involved with that. Of course, there's a great responsibility there, but, mainly the guys who play those positions, you have a love for the business. And when you have a love for the business, it's never really a struggle or a burden. It's something that you enjoy doing. So would that be something I would consider? Of course, because I definitely have a love for the business. To be in the business for this long, you have to love it. And again, we're in a tremendous business. Sports entertainment, professional wrestling is a business that's doing tremendous business. It's doing billions of dollars, billions per year, and just breaking records all the time.
Sure. Now, being a Native American, I have to ask this question because, what are your thoughts on sports teams and mascots using terms like, the Washington Redskins or the Atlanta Braves? Do you have any feelings about that?
Well, feelings of this. Of course, like I said again, the world has changed. So socially, people now can spread a voice and bring a cause. I'm not saying that those things are right. I'm not saying those things are wrong. What I'm saying, as a true native who has been to many reservations, and I do mean many, who has spent time with chiefs of major tribes, who are personal friends with chiefs of major tribes, and went with chiefs of major tribes to certain areas. There's many issues that we need to be discussing other than mascots. We need to be discussing about teen suicide, teen pregnancy, this is on the res, dropout, poverty, no work, addiction, alcoholism. The native race is leading in all of these areas, and no one's speaking out there. There's many speaking for certain races, which is great, but there's no one out there speaking for the Native Americans and the First Nations people. So the real issues that will really bring change is not taking a mascot, a face of a Native American off of as a mascot for a team. The real issues is what's truly happening in the everyday lives of Native Americans and First Nations people. That's what we need to focus on first, because the other things are really not going to make a difference, because at the end of the day, you got to make a difference right there in everyday people's lives.
Sure, definitely. Now, how did other, the Native American community react to your involvement in the world of professional wrestling? I mean, do you get good feedback from it, or was there anything like that?
Always got great feedback. I never had anyone ever get on me or say anything in a derogatory way. And anyone who has ever said that, which I've had a very minute, usually they're 1/8 Indian, Native American, or not full blood. As far as the native tribes and some of the greatest leaders in the native community, meaning throughout the United States of America, has honored me at business meetings and things of that nature The simple reason, because I'm out in the TV world, out in the market world, as a true Native American, 100% blood of the Lumbee tribe of North Carolina, and also family to the Lakota Sioux, portraying our great heritage. I never made it look cartoonish, because I'm true Native American. I didn't have to pretend. I'm true Native American. I never did anything as far as like the movies that portray natives in the wrong way. I did things right. As a warrior in the ring, proud that he was Native American, and I got a lot of respect. I got a lot of commendations from very important people in the Native world all throughout the United States.
All right. Now, when you came back to the WWE in 2005, you changed up your look a little bit. Was that something that you decided to do, or is it something, others thought about, changing up the look?
Well, first of all, I was only supposed to come back for an appearance, and from that one appearance, out of the blue, the response from the fan base, again, the fans speaking, as I told you, that is different. It went from a one-day appearance to they were instantly talking to me about contract when I came through the curtain. So, but the only thing is there's a lot changed with WWE from World Wrestling Federation, and what I mean by that, WWE's even got bigger and more phenomenal, but, as far as the creative storylines, you had Vince McMahon, you had Pat Patterson, you had Chief Jay Strongbow back in the day. Now, which were all people born with success in the wrestling business. Now today you got a lot of different writers and people, and they can't all focus on each and every storyline and write each and every storyline for everyone. And plus, when you got greats like some of the greats we have, they just don't have the talent like some of those greats to write the unbelievable storylines. So yes, I came back as Tatanka. Then we made a decision there, with creative to kind of make a turn, not really to be a bad guy, but to start standing for me as a Native American. So we went to this big spiritual journey, and I came as a new spiritual warrior, which again we wanted to show a difference, and the difference was I was with the Lakotas during that time. This was after the Sweat Lodge ceremony, the Hunka ceremony that we did. So I took on a look that is a true war paint of the Lakotas. That's for their dog soldiers, meaning fierce warriors of the Lakotas. Meaning when you seen the dog soldiers in the woods, you ran the opposite way, because you're dealing with the Mac Daddies of the Lakota tribe, the true fierce warriors that would die in battle, and the only way that you could stop them is that you would kill them first. So that's the look that we took. It was true Lakota war paint, not just something that I just made up.
All right. You had your likeness put on lots of merchandise over the years. Was there any Tatanka item that meant the most to you?
It's kind of crazy, because when you're with the World Wrestling Federation or WWE, there's so much stuff out there. Sometimes it takes 4 or 5 years before you even see some of the stuff, Even the international market is totally different than what we have over here in the U.S. So there's a lot of cool stuff. But, probably the coolest of all of the stuff, and I'm sure with most of all the other guys too, is all the action figures, I love the Jack-specific Superstar line, which is kind of like their Legend line, kind of, and I love their Jack-specific action figure me, because it looked great. It had the red hair, had the traditional loincloth, had the look that I portrayed all the way through, and it's an action figure that not only sold out during that time, but very, very hard to get. So obviously, I'm not the only one that liked that.
All right, yeah, definitely. Now, you've had an amazing wrestling career, accomplishing many things, but is there one thing, that sticks to you that maybe you wish you would have loved that you would have gotten to do, or is there anything that stands out like that?
Well, I think with each and every guy, there's probably always, if you have an attitude that you don't settle for where you're at, you're always wanting more, you're always wanting greater. That's my mentality. That's at least what I try to live by each and every day. Am I excited and happy about what I accomplished at World Wrestling Federation? Yeah, of course. I went 2 years undefeated, which at that time was a record. I got to WWE in only 1 year after making the decision, so that's a great thing to me too, because there are many who have tried, and 10, 15, 20 years later, still not there. It's not an easy task to get in there. And also that I wrestled at WrestleMania matches. I wrestled Shawn Michaels for the title at WrestleMania 9, Caesar's Palace, Las Vegas, defeated him, beat him several times before then. The only thing is, at that time, would have been great to have the Intercontinental title, but it's not something I look back out on because, again, the fan base at the end of the day is great because the fan base will put more titles on you than what any promotion or any company has because, when they enjoy you and you've done what you need to do for the fan base, they always honor you and they always support you.
All right. And lastly, we've seen many wrestlers as of late make their return to the WWE, most recently with the Dudleys. Do you think there would be room for Tatanka to come back?
Of course, and the reason why is because I can still get in the ring and I could still do whatever. It doesn't mean that I have to be out there wrestling every single night. Of course, guys who, I won't say older, but guys who have started before the young guys who are there, the biggest thing is when you're on a work schedule 250 days a year. That's the reason some of the guys who are some of the greats in our business, for example, like Undertaker, he's not out there on the road working every single night. He's doing all the big pay-per-views, and plus Undertaker doesn't have to do that. He's such an established name. He can come to a pay-per-view and give it his all at his pay-per-view and been training beforehand in the ring and ready to go. So can I go out there and still get down in the wrestling ring and give 100%? You better believe it. Could I make a return? Yes, you better believe it, And of course, it would be enjoyable to get in the ring with some of their talent. They got some unbelievable youthful talent that is very, very talented in the ring. And if you get in there with someone that has a character, I believe you can have so much fun because the fan base would love to see characters get in that ring again and tell those stories the way that they would always tell the stories in the ring. I think we'd have a lot of fun, myself and, of course, the WWE Universe, too.
All right, guys. Well, October 16th, once again, you can meet Tatanka at ECPW Wrestling at the Thorne Middle School in Port Monmouth, New Jersey. And on October 17th at 11 a.m. to 1 p.m., you can meet Tatanka at George's Cards and Collectibles at Bensalem, Pennsylvania. And from 3:30 p.m. to 5:30 at the Wrestling Universe in Flushing, New York. And again at 7 p.m. at ECPW Wrestling at Our Lady of Guadalupe School in Brooklyn, New York. Tatanka, any one last thing, with social media happening with everybody right now, is there a way that fans can keep up with you today?
Yeah, I was already thinking about that earlier, Stephen. I'm glad that you brought it up. Again, all the great listeners out there, we thank you for all your support. We thank you for the support here of listening and following Another Wrestling Podcast. Again, that is Another Wrestling Podcast. To be able to get in touch with me, have a beautiful, redesigned official website that I've had for ever since 1996. It's NativeTatanka.com, spelled exactly the way it stands, NativeTatanka.com. Of course, I'm on Twitter at Native Tatanka. I'm on Facebook page, which again is Facebook.com/Native Tatanka. So, and again, if you just put Tatanka on the first page of a Google search, because of all of our SEO and all the stuff that we do with my webmaster, my social media team, we come up with everything on the first page. So we have a very big social media platform. You can find me very easily. But again, NativeTatanka.com, Facebook is Native Tatanka, my page, and also my Twitter account is, again, at Native Tatanka. So, Steve, we really appreciate you. Again, thank you, all the supporters out there. Tatanka is very, very busy in this wrestling industry, traveling all over the world, but believe me, I'm not done yet. There's a lot of things that we're working behind the scenes also. I'm looking forward to making some great announcements here in the near future.
I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
You're awesome, Steve. We'll see you guys. Enjoy. Have a great day.
Once again, thanks to Tatanka for joining us. Jonathan.
We talked politically incorrect, and there are a slew, look it up, kids, of professional wrestling characters over the years that have been what I would assume people would say politically incorrect, and I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall during, say, the Attitude Era, when you had standards and practices and all that stuff, when people would actually call WWE Titan Towers and say, my kid was watching the show and someone barely had any clothes on. That's my mom voice. I bet they got calls, like thousands of calls a day. So who were some of the people that you feel they may have, crossed the line with?
All right, we're going to get a lot of complaints with this, Jonathan. The first one off the top of the bat, he was a guest on our show, would have to be Eugene. And I don't know how else to say this, but I have to say it, Jonathan. I'm going to drop the R-bomb. He played a retarded character. He was retarded. Okay. I know you can't say that. It's not politically correct. He didn't have Down syndrome. I don't know what he had, but it was like mental retardation. In the 80s, we grew up, we called kids retards. You're a retard if you act like an idiot. And that's what he was. I know a lot of people don't like that R word, but what would you call him? I don't know.
Well, I know what we're going to call is, if you have a complaint, you're going to call Steve Credo.
I said I'm sorry. I didn't mean to use it.
His number is 914.
You have to get my point across, though, because I know people hate that word, and it's only used for, trust me, I'm sorry, I'm not using it like that, but I'm trying to get the point across of what his character was. I mean, how else would you put it?
That's the thing, is they never said it, but they wanted people to take that leap.
Yeah.
WWE brought him out. He was, Eric Bischoff's overexcited nephew, and then the shenanigans and antics ensued from there. But that's really what they wanted. They wanted people to think that he was mentally disabled, mentally challenged. And,
you used better words than I did.
Yeah, well, that's for sure. And so, but wait, it'll probably get worse. So you may have to rein me in as well. But yeah, I think that character itself, they probably got, they booked him well. They never, he seemed to always get everybody who made fun of Eugene kind of got their comeuppance. So I feel like that they could have went darker with that, but they did not.
Can I just ask you a question? If you worked your whole life to be a wrestler, you worked your way in, you finally got into the WWE, and then they're like, hey, I got this character I want you to play. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's all you would hear from me, because it was like, you're finally in it. You think you're going to be like the next Hogan, and they have like, okay, you're going to be Eugene now, and it's like, but the
tragedy of that is the person who portrayed Eugene, Nick Dinsmore, is one of the best wrestlers in the past 20 years. Pure wrestling, he is an amazing wrestler. I highly suggest going back to watching some of his OVW matches. Nick the Machine Dinsmore, he was phenomenal. So,
but yeah, I mean, all in all, but the whole going back to the PC thing, but Eugene definitely was one of those guys. I just feel sorry for the guy granted, it made him a few bucks in the end. But still, it's like just if you were given that other kind of a character. But Jonathan, give me some more. What else was offensive?
Well,
give me some.
Be sure to send your complaints to Jonathan Benjamin here. No.
Oh, okay, good. I was
next
going to say, I already apologized.
This person, I'm imploring you to go back on YouTube, on the YouTubes, and look up this character. His name was Seven, spelt the number 7, EVEN. Now that was Goldust's character in WCW. He looked a little bit like Christopher Lloyd did on Who Framed Roger Rabbit, but the character was that of a child abductor, what I call a chomo.
Chomos.
So this character either got so much heat that they had to pull it because it was only on for a very short period of time. And to me, it was creepy, and it was very. I mean, it was definitely not PC, but
well, I think his problem was that he was Goldust already in the WWE. Then he went to WCW, and they're like, well, we can't obviously use the same character, but what else could we do to make it even worse than what it was? And then
and it can always get worse.
It can always get worse, obviously. Well, I mean, like you said, look up 7. You'll definitely see a wow factor with that one. But even going back to Goldust, Jonathan, tell me a little bit about Goldust, because when he first debuted, he was sexual character. You didn't know if he was gay, if he was straight, but then he had Marlena. Then it was like, well, I don't know what he's doing. He's got a wig. He had just like everything thrown in at him of like a what? What is that? Is he what? What is he doing?
Listen, that was a what I call ahead of its time. Like that character really was. It was impressive. It was an amazing character. It got me as a kid, preteen, really like, what is going on here? He was rubbing his body. He was kissing guys. I know Ahmed Johnson like flipped his. We get one S-bomb show. He flipped his shit and like went bananas whenever he had Goldust try to give him CPR. It all boiled down to another non-PC thing, which was the Hollywood Backlot Brawl, which saw Rowdy Piper go against Goldust, and it ended up being a O.J. Simpson-esque car chase scene.
Yep.
So, it's layers. It's like tiramisu, as Macklemore says. And, it was a crazy thing. That character, though, they never came out and said he's gay or straight. They said he was androgynous. And that's the way that they got away with this stuff. They never had to say that he was that way. People made their own conclusions.
Well, let's go back in the past a little bit because, growing up in the 80s, we were at the mecca of wrestling in our time, the boom period. We got to witness, the $1 Million Man and Virgil.
Yeah.
Granted, Virgil was his assistant, but technically you look at it, he was his slave.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's how they pretty much made it for what he did and stuff like that to where...
That's Steve Credo, 1914.
We're just trying to talk about the show. But you get what I mean, though. You know what I mean? To where I think that at that time, to where they didn't really have too many offensive characters back then, but that was kind of like, there wasn't really too many black guys that were... in the main event or anything like that. And, you had this guy, the one black guy that stood out to everybody. He was basically being portrayed as a slave to a rich man. And you're like, oh, okay.
Well, and I have to say that WWE's always kind of had their finger on the pulse of what is going on in pop culture. So if you look back, we had characters like the Iron Sheik. We had characters like Nikolai Volkov. These guys, the only thing that you knew about them were they're from a different country, and they got booed because of that.
Yep.
They could have been great guys. They could have saved your child from a burning building prior to the show, but the moment that they came out and they said, I'm the Iron Sheik and I'm from Iran, boo, it's over. I think that they knew what they were doing, and I think with all these people that we're talking about, they... WWE, WCW. I'm going to talk about TNA for a second. A character that they debuted, his name was Suicide.
Yep.
And one of his things, he would get in the ring and put like a fake handgun to his head and pull the trigger. Like, if you're a kid and you're watching this and you think that's cool, then, there's some issues there. So every company's had some that probably going back, they're like, ooh, I don't know if that was the best idea.
And it was all about just drawing heat. They all had to get that bad guy heat. And, you can't just be like, oh, I hate you to get heat. They really had to really cross the border, just to get the fans pissed off.
I'm glad you said cross the border, because I want you to go back and check out some of JBL's videos whenever he was going on the Mexican border and kicking illegals back into their country. It's a real thing. Get on the network. I'm not joking. This is the kind of thing that, it's
shock that, they wanted to shock you so that you talk about it and then you tune in, and that's how they got ratings,
And
unfortunately.
Speaking of shock, Kane took jumper cables and a battery and tried to shock Shane McMahon's testicles. And you only get one T-bomb on a show, and we just use it as well.
Well, speaking of Kane, we also had the Katie Vick incident where he tried sleeping with a corpse on live TV. Well, then you had Triple H and Katie Vick too, but you get where we're going with. A lot of these shock factor moments. Was it? Do you think it was just for ratings? Do you think it was just at the end of the day they're just trying to pop each other in the back just to laugh and be like, I can't believe we did this and we got away with it?
I think it's probably a little bit of both, to be completely honest, especially during the Attitude Era.
Not get in trouble for.
One that stands out to me though, and I think it was very unfortunate, but it was also done in a way that the fans kind of dictated what happened, and that was with Muhammad Hassan. So Obviously, we're in the shadow of New York City around here. September 11th, 2001. Terrible, terrible thing happened. We had terrorists that bombed the trade towers, the Pentagon. It was a terrible thing. But from that, WWE waited a couple months, and then they brought in a character named Muhammad Hassan, and he had Daivari with him. Now, he was literally stating in all of his vignettes, and go back and listen to him, he never said that he hated America, that he was pro, the Taliban or anything like that. All he said that was he was an Arab American, and he was trying to make a life in the United States, but after 9/11, everybody looked at him like he was a terrorist. So he could have been a good guy.
Yeah.
He could have came out and been like, listen, I love America or whatever, but what happened is the fans saw him and saw that he was an Arab American, which he's not. He's Italian. And he came out, and, what you got from there was this ultimate heel going against everybody and America. Not to mention that his manager at the time, Daivari, at one point, who is, Arab American, did a maneuver off the top rope called the magic carpet ride. So there's many layers, once again, to how offensive things can be. But if you don't allow these sort of things if you just take them as what they are, and it's just an attempt at entertainment, it really breaks it down. But we talked a lot about these people.
The list, it can go on and on. We can, definitely have to have a part 2. We still got more to talk about, Jonathan, but I want to let everybody know, if you head on over to youtube.com/anotherwrestlingpod, you can only fit so many characters in a name, so youtube.com/anotherwrestlingpod. We have all the interviews that we do on this show will eventually get up on YouTube, but we also have exclusives on for YouTube. So we have YouTube exclusives, we have indie spotlights. Check it out, guys. We go to a bunch of shows, we put some videos together, we do live interviews. You're missing out. Make sure you head on over to our YouTube page and subscribe today.
We try really hard not to offend anybody, so those videos are probably pretty PC.
That's right.
Steve, though, we just talked about the most offensive wrestling characters in the business. Business. What about moments? There's been a long and rich history of professional wrestling moments. Some of the things that you think about immediately is, Ultimate Warrior running down to the ring, Hulk Hogan slamming body slamming Andre the Giant. These are the feel-good moments.
Yep.
We are not going to talk about those.
We're
right
talking
now.
about the politically incorrect moments.
What stands out to you as something that you thought at least somebody was going to get angry about?
Well, when we go back to Bret Hart,
who'd he ever beat?
Bret Hart. I felt for the guy because at the time when DX was pretty much, gaining ground on their whole faction, Shawn Michaels would desecrate the Canadian flag. He'd put it in his pants. He'd put it up his nose. And
let's just be honest. He humped it. He yeah.
So definitely, desecrating the flags on national TV back then. It was pretty much, anything you could do. Today, I'm sure we'll get into that in a minute, what happened today recently, but, back then it was on TV, he's doing whatever he can to the flag, and it's like, oh, it's not a big deal, but, I'm sure it was a big deal to a lot of Canadians watching, but that's just one moment, that, desecrating the flag live on national TV. But Jonathan, do you remember the time, probably last year or so, it was some in recent times that I think it was Chris Jericho that desecrated a flag, and he pretty much almost got arrested?
Yeah, it was in Brazil. I think they were over there. It was a Brazilian flag.
And it wasn't even on TV.
No, it was a live event somewhere, and someone got it on, their phone or whatever, but he ended up kicking a Brazilian flag, and from there, he got into a world of trouble. Now, the flag is one of the most important symbols for any country, so I can see why people would get upset. I just don't know, if it happens in a movie, someone's not going to, they may boycott the movie or whatever, but I think that these things happen and it gets taken a little bit too far. As you mentioned, something with flags in wrestling, I don't know what it is, but Big Show, when he was feuding with Rusev not too long ago. A big, at the time, Russian flag came down, and Big Show pulled it from the ceiling, and it touched the ground, and he had to apologize for his actions.
Well, so in wrestling, I guess you got to watch out for the flag incidents. Back then, you could pretty much do whatever you want. Obviously, today, you're getting in a lot of trouble, and it's just bad for the company. So as you can see, the times have changed, kids. Speaking of times changing, how about one of these moments of Rowdy Piper, rest in peace, where he went blackface. He painted half of his body black.
Yeah.
That's, as a kid, honestly, when I watched it as a kid, I had no idea what the hell it meant. I didn't know to me, he just painted half his body black, and I was like, that's awesome. I have no idea what that's okay. I guess it's cool. I have no idea what it means. But when you fast forward a few years later, when you understand the meaning of what maybe he was doing, it's like, holy cow, that really was that was pretty offensive.
They even did not too long ago, whenever not Jack Specific, when
they did not.
No, it was not Jackson. It wasn't Mattel. It was, who was the one that did the Legends series. Regardless, they did a Rowdy Piper 1 of 2000, where it was literally half Rowdy Piper white, half Rowdy Piper black action figure. It was pretty ridiculous. The funny thing is I guess you think about karma, and if you believe in that sort of thing or whatever, they actually had, Andre the Giant had this special salve that was supposed to take off that black and the black paint. We should got that part, yeah. So they actually had this solvent that was supposed to take off the black paint on Rowdy Piper. What ended up happening is Andre the Giant and Arnold Skolin, I think, threw that out and just put water in the cup. So they tried to scrub it off, and it wasn't coming off. So Piper had to actually go through the airport still after WrestleMania in blackface the entire time. It was unbelievable.
Wow. Geez, I'm just thinking about these moments, Jonathan. I'm like, how did this make TV back then? Because today you're not going to see, you really won't see this kind of stuff, and you really have to be creative to figure out how you can offend somebody or how you can do something over the top without getting in trouble, without getting arrested, without losing a sponsor. And to think about it these days when they do it today, it's really triple check, double check, quadruple checked, whatever, of just figuring out who's getting offended. Are we going to get sued? What's going to happen? Because, years ago, it was just screw it. We're going to get ratings. So just do it. So it's amazing to think about some of these incidents. And guys, once again, if you're listening, send us your incidents that you think that we probably skipped over, Jonathan. But I can even go back a few years ago when Vince McMahon, he even had Trish Stratus. He made her strip and had her bark like a dog. This wouldn't fly today.
No, it would not. Especially with the women's division on fire right now. And there's a lot of people out there that are big fans of the women's matches. So I just don't think that. I don't know. I don't know if Vince did that just for shock value, we were saying earlier. I think that there was...
This is the Attitude Era, too, so kind of, yeah.
And they were constantly trying to one-up each other and all that stuff, so I just don't know. I think that was a crazy moment. I don't know how... I don't know how they thought they were going to get away with some of this stuff. I really don't.
Or to where... Because, even TV back then, I don't know. You have, because today I'm just thinking about all the stuff that you have to do so you don't get sued, kind of a thing. To back then, it's what can you do to get ratings? And some of these things that we're talking about. There's more we're going to talk about briefly, but just to think about it, just sit back, take 5 minutes at home, pause the show, think about some of the stuff that happens today compared to what happens, even 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and it's amazing.
And if you're a fledgling wrestling fan, we're not trying to get you to not be a wrestling fan. This isn't just wrestling. If you watch some of the Bugs Bunny cartoons that you watched as a kid and look back at how they poke fun at certain things or whatever, you'll start to realize that it was a different time back then. And yep. I'm not making excuses for anybody or anything like that, but I think the world has people get offended very easily now. one of the things that probably really was the tipping point, I know it was for a certain WWE superstar at the time, was the ECW crucifixion angle that they did between Raven and Sandman. They actually put him on a cross, Sandman. They had like a crown of barbed wire, not thorns on him. And Kurt Angle was actually there for that moment, and he was getting ready to start working for ECW. He told Paul Heyman, he said, "I'm leaving. I've never been so offended in my life, and if I'm ever associated, if my name is ever associated with this garbage, I will sue everybody involved." Wow. So, and then, fast forward a few weeks, months later, and then you have Stone Cold being crucified on Undertaker's like taker symbol. So, yep. It's weird.
And it's just amazing from what you could do, from painting yourself black to making fun of women to crucifixions to even you have Vince McMahon, your boss, the leader of your company, the guy who writes your checks, dropping the N-word on live television. Jonathan, can you get any more offensive than the N-word?
No, and it's one of those things these days that's a very hot button issue. Hulk Hogan himself recently got released from WWE for a racist rant. So to actually be able to go back and see on the pay-per-view, he goes up to John Cena and says, "What's up, my?" and then he uses the N-word. Yeah. So it's a little strange. And it would have been different too if I mean, it's not excusable. It's just not a word that we should use. And there was no context for it. He was just throwing it out there, and it's ridiculous. So, wow. I think that these are some of the probably most politically incorrect moments in the history of wrestling. And if you feel the same, or if you disagree, or if you have other ones, Steve mentioned it earlier in the show. Talk to us on Twitter, talk to us on Facebook, let us know. And on Facebook, we're facebook.com/Another Wrestling Podcast.
Today's show is brought to you by...
Well, here's something that's guaranteed not to offend, and that is Wrestle Ruse Pro Wrestling Underwear. Ladies and gentlemen, I am telling you this. I'm a collector of all things professional wrestling. And this is some of the coolest things that you're ever going to see. A lot of times I said to myself, I want to go out and get tights, Steve. I want to look like a wrestler. Well, they took all the guesswork out of that. You can look like Ric Flair. You can look like Shawn Michaels. You can look like... Well, they even have... This one may offend, I don't know. But they have Dean Titty Master Ambrose underwear. So go on there, WrestleRuse.com. And they're great. They're great. They've got a wide selection of not only boxers and underwear, but they have vintage wrestling tees from an era long ago.
Jonathan, Halloween's right around the corner, and I don't know why you wouldn't want to go to WrestleRuse.com right now and pick up some costumes for some potential wrestling fans out there. Because if you want to be a pro wrestler for Halloween, you're going to want to at least visit WrestleRuse.com. Or if you just want a new change of underwear, you're going to have to visit WrestleRuse.com as well.
As of right now, it may be in the works, folks, but WrestleRuse does not have thong underwear. If they do, I will probably buy a case. So let's get that going, WrestleRuse. But we want to thank them. They're a sponsor with us. If you would like to be a sponsor with Another Wrestling Podcast, all you have to do is email us at anotherwrestlingpodcast@gmail.com.
And Jonathan, that's the show. We want to thank all of you for listening today.
You know what? Every week we do this show free of charge to you, the fans.
And if you're wondering how to repay us, we have just one thing.
Subscribe to us on iTunes.
While you're there, be sure and rate us and give us a good review.
Hey, and if you're looking for more information about AWP, then head on over to anotherwrestlingpodcast.com.
We are all over social media. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Google+. It's endless, kids.
If you're an AWP super fan, you can also show your support by going over to ProWrestlingTees.com and buying one of our official AWP shirts.
We couldn't do the show without you, so tune in next week for...
Another Wrestling Podcast.